like to welcome Mr. Vishal Dhupar to this section of Tech Talks. Mr. Dhupar is the Managing Director for Asia South for NVIDIA, a company that we all know started back in 1993 and has grown and grown, consistently been named amongst the fastest companies across various publications. The roots of the company may have had been in PC graphics, but this is one of the prime examples of an evolution from graphics to AI. Not to mention, they're already speaking about some big words out there, some of which journalists like me like to question, for example, Metaverse. And really, is it already the time to talk about concepts such as these? We're going to put Mr. Dhupar on the hot seat over here. I have the permission to call him Vishal, so I will do so in the course of this conversation. And first, let me just upfront welcome him. Welcome, Vishal.
Thank you, Noor. Pleasure to be with you this morning.
It is a pleasure to have you at BW Business World's Tech Talks. I just directly want to get into the conversation over here right now. Really, there are a lot of companies that would look at NVIDIA and the way it has progressed as a benchmark of sorts, where you understand some of the vectors in which technology as a sector progresses, and then the enabler that allows many other sectors to benefit from the progress in technology per se. I'm very keen to understand what's keeping you busy these days.
Lovely question, and what a nice way to start. And I think what I can really build this story is on a simple fact that the mission, the foundation of NVIDIA resides on the single statement: solve what normal computing cannot solve. And when I say computing, it's fundamentally the most important innovation of mankind. If you really look at it, in last 25 years, this has given us a performance of 100,000 times. Tell me one invention that can give you a performance of 100,000 times. In simpler words, it helped us to bring the cost of computing down. But alas, it has stalled. It has stalled at the time when it is most needed. And it's needed for two primary reasons. We have ushered into the world of data-driven world, where the data is so enormous that we need to manage it and we require computing to manage it. And we've also entered the world where machines can learn to do certain tasks like what humans cannot do. In simpler words, we have an ability to augment the work of our software engineers. Software engineers can now basically have the machine algorithms exposed to your and my digital experience. And when we run that on what we call as supercomputers or parallel compute, you can teach computers certain tasks, and this changes everything. We reach a level where the work of our software engineers, who basically would program based on first principles and do explicit works, can be combined with the work machines can do on the implicit side. If I say that I really enjoy talking to Noor, then I need to write a software that why am I saying this? And this is a difficult proposition for humans to write it. But when machines can write it, you change the schema. And that's why we are saying we're entering from software 1.0 to software 2.0. When we move from software 1.0 to software 2.0, that changes the underlying technology. You got to reconceive how computing is being done. How do we basically architect that? How do we build that up? And how do we really put that into implementation so that automation of automation ushers upon us and we really have an intelligent and a smart world around us? That is what keeps me awake.
And seriously, you've given me like multiple headlines: automation of automation, software 2.0. On that note, I want to bring in the conversation about the market development in India. Now, you have nearly 3 decades of experience when it comes to customer engagement, and of course, from a technology perspective. there is always the argument that technology right now is still not fulfilling the area of customer engagement in the way it should have had, given the data exchange that can happen or provision of data, whether we talk about personalization, whether we talk about the value of services that customers can expect because of the availability of data. Now, this keeps coming all the time. I want to get a sense from you, because you've seen it grow and evolve over a period of time, on how much validity that statement have, that customer engagement really is not yet up to the mark of what technology allows it to be.
Absolutely. And I think it's a brilliant question. As I basically walk around into different aisles, I get to see what's happening. Firstly, I must commend what India is doing. These 2 years, which have been very unique, extremely disruptive, very challenging, what we've seen is that there is a very clear plan for India. Government of India has a strategy plan. The businesses have jumped onto the fact to understand how do they convert things into intelligence. There are different think tanks which are thinking about solving grand challenges of India through the new artificial intelligence theme that is upon us. And that really excites me. Now, coming back to fundamentally, how do I look as how India is going to take advantage of it? Firstly, my belief is every application that the businesses, the government has developed will become intelligent. If you think about AI, it's fundamentally a 2-step approach, actually a 4-step approach. But if you really look at it, it's a 2-step approach. Firstly, you have to train a model. In simpler words, you take a program and you embed that model inside that. This model is capable of firstly learning through the data. More importantly, it can learn from the new data and improve upon itself, just like humans improve with experience. And second step is that you put it into deployment. And once you put it into deployment, it tests based on what it learned and takes the right decision. If you look at the loop, it's quite simple, a loop. It firstly basically understands where it is. That means it perceives where it is. Then it reasons with the environment. Then it validates what it has learned. And finally, it takes a decision. If we understand that 4-step loop in this 2-step journey, then it's very obvious to me every application will have AI. Let me give you a very simple example. You are extremely fond of writing. I'm quite certain that one of the tools that you use for writing is Word. And you would have figured out that on Word, suddenly smart grammar is working. It's predicting your text. It is basically almost telling you grammatically what needs to be corrected, which you used to do it otherwise. First you'll write and then you do multiple things. So the intelligence is now walking hand in hand with your capabilities and it's almost doing it in real time without you realizing it. Now, this part, if gets embedded in a Word document, will obviously get embedded in every document. And here's something really interesting for you. Now, if we did this whole thing in normal compute, firstly, you wouldn't have figured out that this is doing it subconsciously. And secondly, the cost of doing that would have been approximately 5 times for the corporation that has implemented that. So obviously, my first point that you have to really rethink the way computing used to be done and is being done is important. And I'll still connect to your point where you mentioned about India, and that excites me because all the work the young India has done, all the applications that have been developed can be embedded, and it is almost instructive upon us that that's how it's going to be done. The second area which really excites me is the fact that as India continues to build its infrastructure, every infrastructure will be intelligent. The amount of data that we all talk about and their headlines, data is oil, data is the new cash, the data is the new king. What makes it more important is this volume of data needs to maintain its integrity. It has to be trusted at its source. because you can't afford that, hey, the data is flowing and then I'll go and figure out whether I can put a filter around it and purify the water. It has to be done at its very source. And again, you have to go back to the fundamentals that if you have to do it at the source, then you require computing at its very core to happen. And that's why there will be another form of computing happening at its source, which NVIDIA has already announced is called the DPU, the data processing unit. And what data processing unit will do is to maintain the integrity of the data at its very source. Second thing that will happen in data centers is that earlier we would mention, when I was growing up, we'll say, hey, if somebody has A server, B server, 3 servers, 10 servers, then that's how you measure their capabilities. But in this new era, you're going to really measure their capabilities on what kind of data center they have and what is the power of that data center, because the software that we spoke about will become so humongous that no single server can hold it. If no single server can hold it, then the data center becomes the unit of compute, not the server. And that would be really good for India because we are still very early on building our infrastructure. And if we can keep this theme in mind and build an intelligent data center, which becomes your power of compute, then that's going to differentiate us. The third part, and I think you rightfully asked that in your question, is about the product. Every product is going to be intelligent. Even if I took a product which each one of us uses on daily basis, soap, is going to be intelligent. The supply chain of that is going to be intelligent. Your and my preferences will be entailed in that to recommend how our supply chain needs to function. And every time our usage basically diminishes, the quantity that we have will be replenished automatically. If soap can go through it, you can pretty much imagine everything will go for it. And now imagine if intelligent India can have these products, and with this new age startups which are happening, and with the power of experience that companies which have been in existence, when they marry, our economy is going to be very different than what we're talking about today.
I love the way you've answered that question for me. Just on that point, the part of MS Word, I must tell you, the first thing that we tell our journalists when we do our editorial meet is that Word gets it wrong. Word gets the grammar wrong most of the time. That's what we said. I think editors don't like it being preempted. But I think for the large majority, it actually works. So your example was completely on point, and the examples that followed. From an India opportunity standpoint, you've made an excellent case. So I want to continue building on that. There are successful tech economies in the world. Now, unfortunately, India didn't kind of factor in the successful tech economy, which otherwise defined as the kind of contribution to GDP coming from the tech businesses and how much of the adoption of digital had already happened. Now, arguably, this should have changed last year when we saw some big deals like Reliance and all the multitude of companies with Jio, and also the fact that technology permeated everything that was happening. I want to get a sense from you from here next is what? How do you see India's tech economy grow and evolve?
The last 2 years have been absolutely unprecedented, that's the least to say. And what is definitely done on a positive is the pace of digital transformation. But this pace of digital transformation has also elevated a position of collaboration. We learned sitting at home, like you and I are talking today, it's possible. In early days, you and I probably will mutually decide on a time and meet in a place in person and do it. Today, we're doing it at the comfort of the locations where we are comfortable and pretty much achieving the same goals. And this is transformational for India. Let me build a scenario for you. If you look at one of the greatest platforms that mankind has enjoyed, I would argue it is internet.
That's correct.
Internet has connected more than half the population of the world. And it is because of internet, today you're talking about an economy size of close to 140, 150 trillion dollars. But imagine what is happening right now as we talk. There is a new internet, a personalized assistant to you and I that is taking place right now. It's happening because of three factors. Firstly, computing now has a capability to perform at the very edge where there's action taking place. The fact that 5G is upon us, the fact that it can connect all the devices makes it sprinkle computing everywhere. Okay, so the third point which I was talking about was fundamentally the killer app. The killer app is software writing software. The ability to augment the work of our software engineers. We're getting into a stage of automation of automation. When these three parameters really come into play, you're talking about a world that could be a physical world, complementing a digital world. Metaverse is getting created. Instead of depending upon A economy, you could be now depending upon economy A plus B plus C or multitude of those. And can you imagine that 140, 150 trillion economy, what could its size be? And if our nation, which is young, which has got billion developers, one of the highest number of developers that are here, can take full advantage of it, I see no dream that can't be fulfilled here in India.
Very bullish view. It's a very bullish view. I especially appreciate it because we spoke about the India opportunity from a developer standpoint. I wanted to get a sense from you. I know that there are many things that you're doing working with developers. Anything specifically that you want to highlight in terms of these partnerships in this year?
Yes, absolutely. So for any compute platform company, developer is the key to success. And if you look at from the lens of a developer, they have certain unwritten needs. The first need is that your computing platform needs to be large, broad, so that the work that they do can reach to the highest number of people. Second, they also need a platform that can last for a long period of time so that their work remains there for the longest period of time. Third, ease of doing it. They require the right tools, the right SDKs, the right libraries for doing it. Now, if I take this parameter into play, you'll realize that the accelerated computing platform has become so widely accepted that people are now trying to basically take advantage of it into this new era called Software 2.0. They're also trying to basically use the power of accelerated computing, not only for making things intelligent, but also going back into high performance computing, making computer graphics even more richer and more realistic. And in effect, taking advantage of the fact that NVIDIA sits at the intersection of graphics, physics, and intelligence, and how we apply these three paradigms in everything that we do. And therefore, I want to take a little bit of a segue to say that our company loves developers, and for developers, we do GPU Technology Conference. We're now in the 12th year of doing it. And the whole idea is that if we can express to them the future and the work we're trying to do, then jointly together, we can basically make a difference to the larger humanity. And now, soon after Diwali, on 8th of November, the virtual GTC is going to be in play. And I've experienced GTC in two formats, the physical one and the virtual one. In the physical one, the challenge would be that you have to visit a place. And Jensen, who was extremely fond of making sure that he reaches as many countries as possible, yet was constrained at how many towns and cities that you can cover. And typically that limited number of Indians that could hear it firsthand. But with the virtual part that has come into our life, when we did GTC Fall, we realized that the number of people that can attend from India is unprecedented. Over 50,000 people can attend it. In fact, more can attend it. 50,000 was a number that went through it, but quite certain people will leverage it. But why should they leverage it? They should leverage it because firstly, you're talking about technology that is able to solve the unsolvable. You're getting to meet people who see how they've applied these technologies to solve that unsolvable. You also get to see your peers who have applied it, and their learnings can be applied to accelerate what has been already done. And this 3-day event that takes place, it also provides you an opportunity to go back to those papers that were spoken about, those talks that were spoken about, to hear them again, or do it for the first time at the comfort of your time and get inspired through those and apply. Second big advantage is that the network that you build, because you get to know so many people, you build your own network, and collective knowledge of humanity helps you to know that much more. And thirdly, it is really happening precisely whenever you want to do it, so that old adage, do when you want, on what you want, and where you want, really gets into a play.
All right, perfect. I have to admit, I did go through the highlights, especially the India highlights, and some of it was like, some of it, of course, I did have to go and read up, like the digital twin. I think it was construction and multi-criteria decision-making. I think that was a session, but I think TTS is going to be part of that session. I had to go back and read up some of this. So very, very futuristic, but Metaverse, I want to talk about it before we kind of bring this to a close. There is an argument out there on, are we a little bit early in trying to talk about Metaverse? Have we already reached that place and point from a large scale perspective? How do you see it?
You know, the fundamental challenge that one needed to solve for making it realistic is, how do you bring 3D world into unification? When we spoke about text, there are enough technologies available to make you read different formats simultaneously and unify that. But when it comes to 3D world, they're not technologies that unify it. You might use A technology for design, you might use B technology for styling, you might do another technology for collaboration. How are you going to unify that? Omniverse does precisely that. It basically is built connectors that your 3D world can come and you can work in collaboration. You can also bring in 3D avatars into it, and you can make the world look very realistic. One of the foundations that we have prospered on is that the digital world needs to be as realistic as our natural world. When you have natural environments, you spend more time, you're more comfortable doing it, because that's the subconscious mind that works that, hey, this is not realistic. Do I need to be here more than this? But when you can immerse yourself in realism, you can do that much more. And metaverses is what I was referring to when I was talking about the new age internet that's upon us, when multiple things will come in. In the previous GTC, Jensen spoke about the work BMW is doing. It's talking about digital twin, but most importantly, it's talking about creating the factories of future in both virtual world that will be deployed. It's very interesting to understand the challenge that BMW has and why they've implemented it. So I'll encourage lots of our listeners to go and listen to that how this company, which is a leading brand, services the components from multiple factories, and their customization is over 90% of the orders they receive. That means 9 out of 10 vehicles are customized. Supply chains are coming from multiple factories. There's a brand that is associated with it. You can't afford to have an error, because that can hurt everyone. and to reduce that, how technology has come to the rescue and you're building up the future together. So it's very much with us. If you have a digital twin, which we've all been experiencing, if there's a plane that is flying, and if you have that digital twin with you, you can predict the maintenance need. You can figure out if there's an error that's happening, and you can save so many humanities into it. You can have digital twin of a human, and you can work on that. So the world is upon us. It is for us how quickly we believe we want to embrace it. And the quicker we embrace it, that's a distinction that we're going to make to our own economy and to the Indian economy and to the global economy.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Vishal, I learned quite a bit from this discussion. You, in fact, have played quite a role in fostering partnerships, and also how accelerated computing has grown in India per se because of some of these. Any final words that you would like to say as part of this interview to our audiences? I'm sure they've learned a lot so far by it already. I'm looking forward to the GTC once again. I've had the chance to just see bits and pieces in the past. However, I have marked my sessions for this year. Anything that you would like to leave the audiences with?
Yes, absolutely. I think in conclusion, what we really spoke about, that we are in an unprecedented world, packed with challenges and with massive technology disruptions. This is an opportunity. And the best opportunities are realized when we experience it. GTC is a platform for you to come and experience it. You can do it at your pace. You can do it in collaboration, and you can basically take benefit of it. For example, if you decide to basically log in during your business hours, it's really helping you out, because the people who are presenting those studies, even though recorded, will be available to you for live question answers. Now, for whatever reason, you will not be able to attend it live. There'll be recorded question answers, just like this session is, and you can reach out to those people and you can talk about it. The second thing is that there are superstars of the world of AI who are going to be talking here, and they're going to tell you the questions that you probably have in your mind, and hopefully those get cleared and inspires you to make a difference to the work that you are doing. In the end, remember that this is an augmentation of the work of software engineers. Your and my digital experience, which people call as data, when exposed to a right algorithm, what people call as neural networks, with the right compute, the computer can help you write the software that you and I cannot write. So come, let's enjoy it and make sure that we learn a lot, and let's prosper together.
I'm grateful for your answers and for your time. If I was allowed, I would have gone on speaking to you. I have like still 1,000 questions that we could have asked, such as the subject and such as the speaker that I have with me. But once again, thank you so much, Vishal, for joining and for speaking to the business world audiences.
Noor, it's been an honor to talk to you, and I look forward to seeing many, many people at GTC, and I look forward to talking a lot more with you. Thank you, and have a good day.